Welcome into the Thursday edition of the Fun Astrology Podcast, January 23rd, 2020. Thomas Miller, thanks for joining us, and thanks for your comments on iTunes and the other platforms. My heart to yours. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's talk about Aquarius today. So basically everything that we talked about yesterday is pretty much still in place. We could talk today about the T-square between Mars and the ascendant. That's the long opposition. And then the squares are the ascendant to Venus and Neptune on one side and Mars on the other. But we're not. Now I just mentioned that. I don't often talk about aspects to the angular points, the ascendant, descendant, midheaven, etc., because it's just there's already so much that we talk about. But this one stood out as basically that energy that we were talking about yesterday could be a little bit more spiky today, which, if you listened to yesterday's podcast about using that tension to your advantage in your relationships, would give you even more opportunity to surface something today. So that would be something that you can play with. And again, if you didn't catch that from yesterday, then just put that with this, and you'll have a little bit more oomph on what we were talking about yesterday. Let's talk about Aquarius. We set it up when the sun moved in on Monday, but I thought we would do a little bit more embellishment of it today. And I'm going to use as the avatar of Aquarius the gentleman who I have narrated now 26 audiobooks for. Number 26 is in the oven. It's not out quite yet as of today, but it will be in about maybe the next 2 weeks. And that is Frederick Dodson. Now, Fred is an author who has written over 30 books himself in multiple languages. Fred and I first encountered each other in 2013 when I had a very intuitive prompt, literally an intuitive prompt, to email Fred about doing his audiobooks. He did not have any of his books on audio, and I sent him an email asking if he would be interested. I sent a little demo. It was totally intuitively driven. I was clearly prompted to do so. And he responded the next day, and that was 26 audiobooks ago. And he said that the response was exactly the same intuitively prompted response. He said of all the requests and pitches that he gets as a high-profile author, that he generally says no. And to this one, he said yes. And it's been a stellar, just effortless and successful and wonderful relationship for now going on 7 years. Over those 7 years, I've gotten to know Fred a little bit, not very well because he's an Aquarian. And I just thought he is a perfect example of Aquarius characteristics. So first and foremost, Fred is totally unique. He learned as a teenager that going to work for somebody else, which he tried when he was about, I think, 13, was basically a form of human slavery to him. Now, some don't see it that way, but he saw it as, wait a minute, I'm going to give the most valuable asset I have, which is my time, away to somebody else who is going to use it to make more money for themselves than they're going to pay me and control me and tell me what to do, when, where, how much? I don't think so. That's Aquarian. Fred's most popular book, the one that he's known for, is called Parallel Universes of Self. It was written back in 2010, 2008, somewhere back in there, and it still is a legacy book on the topic of the multiple parallel lives in an infinite reality. I mean, we live in an infinite universe. Could there not be simultaneously parallel universes? And that's what that book is all about, and how to identify and move in between them. When he wrote that book, no treatment of that material was out at that time. Now there are a few others that have treated around it, but he is still the legacy of it, still the originator of it, and was standing in a field all by himself when he wrote that book. That's Aquarian. Some of the later audiobooks that I narrated were around the topic of Atlantis and the Garden of Eden, And then he wrote one on the Pleiades. That's a fascinating book if you're interested in realms beyond this one. But for somebody who does not have a PhD, in fact, does not have a college degree, the research in those books is just nothing short of profound. The organization of it, he mentioned in one book that he had basically researched and wrote the whole book and then threw it away and started over because he had a whole different way of treating it. The ability to organize that information, to gather that information. He's always finding things that are offbeat topics and bringing them to really current relevance. That's Aquarius. Fred is a very successful self-published author. He uses the channels of YouTube and Vimeo and Pinterest and the social media channels. If you'd like to find him, he's Reality Creation Coaching on Facebook and Twitter and some of the various other platforms. I think that's also his identity on YouTube. But he publishes videos, articles. He has a blog that he has a membership site for. He uses technology to the fullest to distribute his material. That's Aquarius. He's kind of a off-to-himself kind of person, a little quirky. That's Aquarius. It's a very unique and unapologetic self-expression into the world. Fred is incredibly well-traveled and has lived in multiple countries. That connection with the world, that connection with society, that being very comfortable in one environment and another and another. And by the way, he is equally well known in America, the North America, Europe, particularly Germany, the Middle East, the South Pacific, Asia. I mean, he's equally known in these areas and has followings from all of these areas. That's Aquarius. It is very connected to the social tribe, if you will. And I think the last and most important characteristic is that his materials are absolutely life-transforming. They are life-changing. They will shift your reality. They will change your perspective. They will change your viewpoint. They'll change the way you do life. They'll give you tools to do things in a completely different and better way. And that, too, is Aquarius. It is the social shake-up transformer that will take the old and move it and morph it into something better and newer and fresher. And that is the nature of Fred Dodson's work. It has been an honor and a privilege for me to be a part of it, as you can imagine. And I'm loving that he was born under the Aquarian sun. I'll see you tomorrow for TGI Friday from the Rocky Mountains. Take care. Bye-bye.